So let us go to the discussion. Today's topic we are uh, discussing on the drafting portion, public interest litigation, already legal aid, and there is very less chance of the drafting in legal aid part. Ultimately, it is all about understanding, and I'm sure that you will explore the topic more. And whenever you get opportunity, please study the National Legal Services Authorities Act and how it can be helpful to litigant. Let me tell you that our knowledge, our education, our all understanding of the law is very much important, but at the end of the day, when we are living in the democratic country like India, and when people are fighting for litigation, ultimately what our clients are getting, what justice they are getting is important. So I think that the legal education and all our efforts which we are making together, the heart and the crux of this entire effort is rendering justice. So if we are able to give justice to certain citizens, certain clients, then it would be a great benefit to the society. So let's go with that. Now, some of the very basic thing, what is the role of drafting in law? You must be knowing that law is a written laws are foundation of democracy. We have discussed a little bit on that, because generally when there is a monarchy or dictatorship, then the entire ruling is based on the whims and caprice of the ruler. And that's why even though rules are not written, there is no much difference, because anytime it can be changed. But when democratical or fundamental rights have been given, democratical system is organized, then written laws are very much important. And what written law can do, that we can see that by virtue of the Indian Constitution, which is enacted and which is implemented, we are ultimately having a shelter of the fundamental rights, and our entire ruling in the country is going on. And that's why the very important written laws will be by combination of the vigilant citizens and responsible lawmakers. This is also equally important. I see that a lot of us, obviously we are all citizens, but I see a lot of students who are going to be the future lawmakers also. Now, when you are becoming lawmaker, drafting portion is becoming very important. Our parliament, our legislative assemblies have a separate legal department who have experts of drafting and writing legal term, and which is again a very interesting task. It is part of the legislative drafting. I will request you that in future also, when you are getting explore or time, learn about legislative drafting. There is a great scope, because what is my observation? We advocates are very clear. When we practice, we are very clear that okay, this rule has this flaw. So we are very easy. Our critical power is very strong. But at the same time, when we are asked, okay, now you make a rule, then it will be very difficult. I'm sure all of you might have experienced that. Suppose when you are writing a letter, even simple application, then we have to think so many things. Okay, what should be written, how to start, address, to whom the letter should be addressed, and so on. So this is a very skill which you can learn. So this too is very much important. Vigilant citizen, responsible lawmakers, and legal awareness is a very crucial to our work for connecting the society. And that's why the role of legal drafting is coming. So today's task, we are also discussing not whole legal drafting, but a limited portion of the drafting. Now, this is for a kind of information. There are three kind of drafting available in legal field. One would be functional drafting, which will include some kind of function like contract drafting or sale deed or mortgage deed, in which there is a communication between two parties, and then you are putting out on a paper so that rights and some property will transfer from a party to the other. So some specific function have been identified. Another will be persuasive drafting. So pleadings will be part of the persuasive drafting. You will study the subject in case you are the first or second year or third year students. According to Bar Council of India, drafting, pleading, and conveyancing is a compulsory subject which is required to be offered to the students of law. So drafting and pleading, pleading means what? When you are actually putting a plaint or written statement in which you are pursuing your matter, that you are concerned with your client, and then on behalf of your client you are going in front of the court, and then it is decided by the court what is required to be taken and how evidences would be supported. So that's a persuasive drafting. Third is a informative drafting, which is simply a legal opinion, writing a letter to the client, or a kind of the simple title certificate, etc., which is informative. And this kind of drafting, all lawyers at different stages use this kind of drafting. Today's task is about the persuasive drafting, which will be part of the public interest litigation. This is only to bring your attention about the drafting. Please keep this in mind before you draft anything, that a good drafting is coming from the heart, and that's coming from the practice only. Even I have drafted so many pages, so many different articles, because I used to practice in a city civil and sessions court, Gujarat High Court and district court at Ahmedabad. So basically, we when you meet your senior, generally today we use laptop, immediately for typing. But I have seen the time when my senior told me, sit with pen paper. He will keep lot of files in front of him. He will write lot of things We have to prepare entire plaint by our hand, and then it will be going for the verification, draft 1, draft 2. And by virtue of this only we learn that how to put some kind of word, because each and every word, each and every statement counts, even full stop, comma, everything has a very great value when you draft a law and basically legal aspect. So ultimately it's coming from the heart. And I have some good interesting example that books templates of drafting are only structure, and structure is not drafting. Generally what we do, that suppose when you would be in a final year, your tutor instructor will give you, okay, tomorrow please draft a plaint. What is the best easiest way? We'll go to library. There are so many books available. Even CPC also including the plaint format, that okay, this should be the format of plaint. These are the simple structure. Please understand it early as possible. That structure is not drafting, it is only kind of the proper vision that okay, this is the particular chronological way, but the all important points and contents, facts should be kept by us, and that is depending upon the case to case. There is no common book for all kind of drafting, I'm telling you, because all matters are different, all facts are different, parties understanding is different, everything is different. And that's why good clothes don't make a handsome and successful man, it is only adding to them, Similarly, attracting packaging is not making a product perfect. That's why this example is shared. That doesn't matter what fantastic structure you have kept in mind, or what a wonderful draft you have prepared, unless and until it includes the relevant portion according to your case, it won't be helpful to you. So please keep this in mind. Generally, this is the very important, even with due respect, after getting the degree of law, even some advocates who are junior advocates might be doing the same thing, only that from the books and templates are taken. Yeah, from preliminary beginning the discussion, it's fine. But on a long term, your own inputs are helping you a lot. So these things are required to be kept in mind. Now, when we talk about the role of drafting, we have discussed this three portion, that ultimately legislative drafting is coming when legislature is preparing the legislations, bill, amendment, ordinances, etc., both central level and state level. Simply executives will try to interpret them, and judiciary's role we have seen. So today's our task would be simply dealing with the judiciary, that how public interest litigations are filed by the people or public oriented person before the judiciary. And here the task of judiciary would be available with respect of the judicial review also. I show you three important important components of the judicial process: judicial activism, judicial review, and judicial self-restraint. So generally public interest litigations may be affecting to any of them, right? I will show you some examples, and already you have seen that when there is a judicial review and judicial activism, both are very much available. Activism will come when there is an absence of law and you are going before the court by seeking guidelines. Let's see, there is an absence of law, and please do that. At the same time, under the judicial review also, a lot of writ petitions are filed in the nature of the public interest litigation also, where you are always challenging the legislature action. So when we talk about the judicial review has also three facets. Judicial review of the judicial actions. That means the lower court's opinion, lower court's decisions are challenged before the higher courts. Number two, judicial review of the legislative action. And number three, judicial review of executive action. So when you talk about the judicial review of the legislative action, that power is also available by Article 13 of Indian Constitution, where the law created by the legislature also is taken, or it's checked by the Supreme Court or High Court in case of the state legislation, whether this law is satisfying the conditions of the Constitution of India or not. And similarly, when executive actions are taken, government officers' actions are taken, that is also becoming part of that. And there are a lot of matters, a lot of examples in which courts have entertained the petition by virtue of the PIL, where executive actions are there. I gave example of the prison reforms, right? So in prison, a lot of prisoners, even prisoners are there when there is a pregnancy, the kids are with the prisoners. What should be the behavioral pattern? What should be the proper facilities? Whether executives or jail officers are performing their tasks or not. These all things are also part of the PIL, and a lot of orders you will find out. So this is the scope of the public interest litigation. So before drafting is becoming very easy, first we understand the point, and obviously this is not class to discuss only PIL, because otherwise, even so many classes are getting very less. But yes, now we have very good material available, which will be shared with you. You can have a look to that. But our focus would be on drafting. So before you draft or before you start writing, all the things are required to be kept in mind, that this is all going to be the scope of PIL. PILs are very important for public interest, we have seen, and it is filed on behalf of those who are unable to get justice and who are in representative capacity of the people. And there are also misuses available due to various reasons, which we will discuss in the same only. So this point is already discussed by us last time. So with your consent, I'm going a little bit faster because I need to discuss the points. This point we discussed that PIL is an expansion of the rule of locus standi. What is locus standi? We know that only the people who are suffering a problem or people who are getting injustice should go to court because they have to put affidavit. Deposition is very proper. So if I file a single application before the court authority will tell me to depose on oath. That affidavit is required to be filed, and I have to tell that whatever I have stated is absolutely correct as per my knowledge. Otherwise, the wrong matters should not be given to the court in any way. And that's why the rule of locus standi is very much important, but it is also expected and accepted by our country that in India, when there is a huge people who are under the poverty, ignorance, illiteracy, when forget about the law, even people don't have the very knowledge about the very basic aspect also, like basic education is also not available. At that time, it will be next to impossible for them to move to the courts. And that's why PIL jurisprudence have been developed. And let me tell you, the Indian courts are very powerful in terms of developing this jurisprudence on PIL, where we have entertained the even single postcards, which we discussed yesterday as a public interest litigation. I told that the abuse started of PIL by different way because then ultimately meaning of PIL is a public interest litigation. But then you see the different meaning, which is also coming by virtue of the court's observation, like publicity interest litigation, private interest litigation, politics interest litigation, or paisa income litigation. This kind of word also are used because generally we have a very unique structure of the country, and our people and some citizens are also having wonderful mindset. What we do that suppose we have a very good powerful instrument to give justice to the people who are needy. But then we will also find out that if I am filing PIL, like MC Mehta was very popular when PILs were filed. So now some people want to get publicity. So then simply without any kind of reason or without applying the law, they will simply go and file a public interest litigation. Then sometimes there will be private interest. In public interest litigation, we have seen that public interest should be included. There is a guideline also which I will show you. But then when sometime the dispute is of the private nature. Private nature dispute means when the huge public is not included, only some people or individual dispute is included, but under the guise of the public interest, individual interest is portrayed as a big thing. Say, for example, my employer kicked me out from my job. Now, I will go to file PIL. Why? Because see, the employers are kicking the employees out, and without any data, I will see. Technically, my job is lost. I have to fight in a proper court because I have to fight for my rights, individual rights. But here I am trying to include the many people right without showing data. Yes, if there is a situation like pandemic where thousands of people have lost the job by one-sided decision, then I can say that not only me, there are so many people, data is available, and I am linking that grievance as a public grievance. But here I am showing my interest as a private interest in a public interest, and then petitions are filed. So there are a lot of instances which have been observed. And that's why there are misuse available. These are the example by publicity, private interest, political rivalry also, any oblique motive. What is political rivalry? You must be knowing that the ruling party, when they will make a laws or when they will come out with any scheme in order to stop, because I don't need to give the example because it will be very subjective. But say, for example, X party is ruling party, and then they have made certain laws by which many people are getting benefits. Now, in order to just stop people to get the benefit, either the opposite party will move to the court under the guise that, sir, this is actually a misuse of the provision of the law, abuse of the provision of law. And then in order to come out with the political rivalry, the provisions are filed. I gave an example yesterday only that in Delhi violence, when matter was filed before the court, Supreme Court, that Supreme Court should take a cognizance about the Delhi violence and, that complete barricading happening. Court denied and they rejected the petition that, sorry, this petition cannot be entertained right now. Let government take a stand because the security and proper protection is actually the portfolio of the government, and court should not intervene that. So this kind of observation is also coming when PIL is available. So there is a main challenge for the court when PIL is coming, that what is the seriousness of the petitioner? Actually, is it a serious nature of the petition which should be entertained, or it is simply for the frivolous or oblique purpose? Whether the person who is filing PIL is actual representative of the person or group, or he is individually coming in his capacity, and it should be filed not by the clean hands but by the clean heart, clean mind and clean objective. This is also one of the observation that just by clean hand, because there is a very basic principle that whenever you go to court, you should go with the clean hands. That means that when you have done something wrong and then you plead before the court, and court will also consider what is your action and how your action has resulted into the violation of the right of some other party. So when you have not behaved in a bona fide way, courts don't entertain your matter also. So that is also applicable with respect of the public interest litigation. And that is why in 2010, there was no uniform guideline about the public interest litigation, but Supreme Court of India came out with some strictures. And then based on that, Gujarat High Court came out with the notification. This both notification and guidelines have been shared with you yesterday. I have put the abstract of them by presuming that you might have gone through that. But later on, I have the Delhi High Court guidelines also, Himachal Pradesh High Court, and High Court of, Madras High Court. Almost all high courts have come out with the PIL, because all high courts have inherent power under Article 226 to entertain the petitions. So what should be the rules? Almost everyone has accepted the Supreme Court of India guidelines. So there are the regulations about PIL by virtue of two things. I will tell you the little bit on about this particular about public interest litigation. What should be the meaning of public interest litigation? That has been explained, that without limiting the generality of the said expression, it will genuine, substantive or larger public injury or public grievance, or for enforcing public duty or for vindicating public interest, but shall not include a matter involving the individual, personal or private grievances of the petitioner of anyone else. So this is the large meaning. Public interest litigation has been identified, that please trouble us only when there is a genuine issue which is taken or which is suffered by a lot of people. And I'm sure the example of PIL which has been shared with you yesterday, that one person has moved to the court that there is no any specific infrastructure for specially, earlier we were using the word disabled people. Now we have used this SAP people. So SAP people, and let me tell you that not only this, but other actions have been also been taken. And we have seen that now almost all government buildings are designed in a way that it can give access to the SAP people also. Those who cannot walk, those who cannot see, they can also climb with the help of the particular thing. Second petition is also filed by Indira Jaisi, very famous advocate, that about the lynching, targeted lynching. And you know that mob lynching is very in a discussion right now. Doesn't matter if it is talking about the Delhi incident or Palghar incident or any other incident in the country, where people take a law in their hand and without trusting the police and administration, when beating will take place and then people will die, there should be guidelines. So for that also the PL has been filed, the format has been shared with you, in which you can see the pleadings that how this mob lynching can result into the violation of the fundamental right of the people. And you see that Article 21, the protection is given to all the person. So no person should be deprived of his right to life and liberty except according to procedure established by law. That's what Article 21 says. So when the mob lynching takes place, technically you have not given the right of fair trial, right? When person is presumed that he has violated certain law, so he should be prosecuted, and without listening to this prosecution, how you can simply give the punishment to them? So that's something very dangerous. So you see that these are the two examples which has been shared with you to explain that this kind of matters are accepted in the public interest, and that's how definition is also available. Now what should be the contents of PIL? You can see the rule number 3, that it is petitioner social standing, professional status and his antecedents, particularly with respect to the credential for maintaining the petition in the nature of public interest litigation. And that's why I refer that you read the petition filed by Advocate Indira Jaising, that she has very properly mentioned that, see, this is the credential, what is my status, how I am fighting the matters, and what is my motive behind filing this PL. I will also show practical one more PL right now only, that this is what it has been included into the drafting. So contents should be mentioned. Nature and extension for personal interest, if any involved in the cause, it is also required to be mentioned. Like I am suffering some problem, like my municipality keeps giving me the contaminated water. Now I am also consuming the water, at the same time other people are also consuming. Take a note that it is a general rule that your petition should be filed including the public interest. But sometimes you are also one of the interested party. You are not only one, but you are among all the people. In that case, you are very properly mentioning that I am also involved. I am also one of the beneficiary. But apart from me, there are thousands of people and all of them cannot come. So we want intervention of the honorable court. The court can give us the justice. So if personal interest is involved, that is required. I don't say that no personal interest should be involved at all, because some of the matter like environment pollution or water pollution or any other access to the general benefits or suppose the government has already introduced the scheme, but it is not reaching, and if you are deserving, you can also move to the court. So courts don't simply throw away the petition just because you are interested party, but yes, you should be very properly clean hands mention that what is the personal interest included. Very interesting thing is, have you ever faced contempt of court proceedings? I don't think you might have studied the contempt of court act if you're in first year or second year, but in third year, fourth year and fifth year, generally final years, the contempt of court is also taught to you, in which the contempt of court act 1971, in which civil contempt, criminal contempt has been defined. So in case you have faced any contempt proceedings, now it is mentioned that you should write down also. In case you have faced it, you should also mention so that court can take a note of that. Then fact in chronological order, and if the petition is based on the news report, it must be stated that what news reports are used here and how you are relying on them, and nature of injury cause. So you will see these all things in a detail. In case if the petitioner is organization, then you should be filed through the office bearers. You must be knowing that even NGOs, trust, companies, everyone is also allowed to file the petition in case they are able to find out the public interest. You will find out most of the petition. You must be knowing Common Cause, a very well-known NGO in our country, and who has filed so many petitions in form of the PIL for rendering justice. That's absolutely fine. Even organization like this can also share the particular petition. Then declaration is also required that the petition is purely in public interest and not on the instance of any person, plus the source of the cost. So that declaration is also now, I will show in, if you might have seen in the draft only, in before the prayer clause, the sources have been mentioned that this is the declaration, that it is purely only for private interest. And in case lawyers' fees are paid, then what are the source of that? Whether it is funded by any individual or it is collected, that this source are also required to be mentioned, so that it will not come into the view of the maintenance and champerty agreement. You must be knowing that maintenance and champerty, a very popular concept of the contract law, which is considered to be the agreement against public policy. So helping someone to take legal action will come into maintenance, and champerty will come when you are helping someone to take legal action when you are interested into that. So sometime it will part of the champerty agreements. It will, and according to Indian Contract Act, this kind of contracts are against public policy. So this flavor is also organized here, and amendment should be mentioned in a chronological manner. Plus, the cause involved is purely public interest. There is no other personal gain, private motive, or oblique motive. Also, in declaration, you are mentioning, you should mention. That's what guideline says. The constitutional or statutory provisions of administrative instruction which have been violated, you should mention how it is violated, what constitutes the very ground or cause of action for that. The relief which you are claiming, what are the grounds for that? That also required to be mentioned along with the prayer clause. So these are the guidelines available by virtue of the Gujarat High Court Public Interest Litigation Rule. Now, this is the guideline by Supreme Court of India, which is accepted by almost all other high courts also. You see, it is mentioned, no petition involving individual or personal matter shall be entered in as a PL, except matter indicated hereinafter. Letters or petition falling under the following category alone will ordinarily be entered in as a PL. So see, Supreme Court has very clearly mentioned in 2010 only that your PIL should be directly connected to this matter and it will be held. So bonded labor matter, neglected children, non-payment of minimum wages, exploitation, complaint for violation of the labor law, petition from the jail complaining harassment date. So you see that when right to life, liberty is concerned, where there is a powerful administration of state on one side, and on other side there can be a poor or downtrodden citizen, then the help will be rendered to them by virtue of the PL. So that's what is accepted by the Supreme Court of India. Petition against police for refusing case can also be there. Death penalty or death in a police custody, custodial death matters. Petition against atrocities on women, harassment, bride burning, rape, murder will be entertained as a PL. Petition complaining the harassment of the torture of the villager by co-villager or SC/ST or EVC. This kind of matters will be entered in as a PL. This kind of things are identified. Then environmental pollution, disturbance to ecological balance, drugs, food adulteration, maintenance of the heritage, cultural forest, wildlife, and other matters of public interest importance, riot victims, family pension. So these are the broad topics identified by the Supreme Court in which PL can be filed. But at the same time, there is also available, these rules you have already studied, so I'm a little bit moving faster because I want to show you the drafting, and we will also deliberate some kind of the important aspect on that. So this matter will not be considered as a PIL. Landlord tenant matters, service matters, pension gratuity when individual rights are concerned, complaint against central or state government, admission to medical institution, educational institution, petition for early hearing of the case. This all will not be entertained as a petition. You can understand that generally these are the private interest involved, in which unless and until you have data, like suppose you talk about pension and gratuity. So now pension is becoming a right of the employee, but most of the employers are not, adopting the illegal ways to avoid the pension. Then you can go. Otherwise, generally pension matters, gratuity matters are coming into the individual cases. So this matters will not be entertained as a PIL. I don't say that you don't have right to move to the court for any of the matter. But in that case, you should go with the normal REIT. Under Article 226, you can go as a REIT petition, not as a public interest litigation, under which you can go to the Supreme Court also. Now coming to the very interesting aspect, this is my observation. You can see when I inquired that how much effort you put in drafting relating to law, there is a 20% percentage, and how effort you should put on theoretical subject is 80%. This is the general observation, and this shows that maximum student have spent more time when you learn about the theoretical aspect, and they are very much important. But when the same thing are required to be drafted, this is called hard. So I can say soft skill and hard skill both are involved. So when you learn the law, it is a soft side of that you are aware about the legal provisions. But when the same provisions are required to be put on paper, then very less people are getting involved, or obviously getting opportunity. They might not be getting opportunity. And that's why I told you the drafting is a heart of legal profession. We discussed that. Lack of proper knowledge about the drafting subject will increase litigation, delay injustice, and disruption of the legal process. And you must be knowing that when the faulty petitions are filed before the court won't be able to entertain. They would have to spend more time to understand, interpret. Ultimately, delay injustice will happen, and then that there would be restoration of the legal profession. It should not happen. That's why proper important things should be there. What are the implications of the poor drafting? I have identified some of the idea. Double and doubtful meaning. Obviously, when you are not clear what you are writing, and our language skills are having question, our proper interpretation skills have question, then meaning will not get clarity. There will be ambiguity and difficulty in interpreting the documentation, that you are not able to understand the point. Difficulty in implementation of objective also, that for what purpose you have drafted a petition and what government should do. That's not clarity. Litigation is increasing because lot of time, money getting involved, and misinterpretation available to the wrongful judgment and causing harm to the innocent person. So these are the implication of the poor drafting, crux of the meaning of that your drafting skills should be very important in field of law, and we should pay utmost care about that. One more interesting thing, drafting identified as a composite art. What do you mean by composite art? Because both greater skills and efficiency is required, plus the knowledge of law, procedure, settled judicial principles, besides proficiency in English language is important. Okay, because I say when I tell you to draft something, it's not the case I'm telling you to write a letter. Each and every sentence you are writing should have a background of the facts, background of the law. What are the judicial precedents? Because in our country, there is a very great structure. I told you yesterday that we simply don't read the law. We have to read the judgments also, because courts are identified as an interpreter of the law. So suppose you read the wages, code on wages, which is a unique recent development. Now, code on wages is coming, section 2 of the code of wages, suppose giving definition of the wage. Now, whether the definition is properly mentioned or not, in case if someone has faced any problem, they will move to the court, and court will give interpretation. Now, that interpretation is not automatically added to the law. It is a separate add-on precedent. So we are also using the same thing. Say, for example, you are attending any classes. So in contract, why we read the case laws, like a communication. So Lalman versus Gaurav Dutt case, or Mohari Bibi versus Dharmodas Ghosh case. Why we read? Because these cases have explained the point very clearly. And that's why when you draft something, you can also keep these all points in mind. And that's why somehow the drafting portion is offered into the final year. So that by that time, it will be very easy for you to understand all the things together. And that's why think, learn subject by heart, get proper idea about facts, use proper language, associate with the logic, and then it will be a good draft. So this is what my practical observation, which is given to you. I have put some qualities of the good drafter: good common language, clarity of the facts, clarity of the law. These all things I have added for you. I have prepared this exhaustive presentation for you. So those who are learning drafting first time can always have a look to that. I will bring your attention to that, and remaining portion you can get from this particular draft. These are the stages of the drafting, which I'm sure you must be knowing. That is a planning stage, writing stage, and revision stage. What you do in planning stage, that you first prepare everything. Let me tell you that a building is always constructed in the mind of the architect first, and then it comes on the surface. Similarly, any single application or draft is actually taking place in our mind first. That okay, this is what I want to write, and then you are putting on paper, and then you are revising and making a final draft. Similarly, what is happening in the planning stage, you take instruction from your client that what is actually happening, what are the problems client is facing. The client will, as an advocate, you will see that client is always giving a raw fact, so raw material to you, that it is not put in a sequence, a proper way. Only client puts the matter according to what he thinks better for him. But being a lawyer, we have to see all the things together. So, if you are interning or if you have experience with your seniors, then your seniors tell you to sit with them when client is giving briefing. And then they will tell you, okay, put all the thing in chronological way. And then you ask the client again that this is something which is missed out. Do you have anything to say here? And then client say, oh, yes, I do. I forgot to tell you. And accordingly, you are putting the matter. So you are getting instruction, and then you put analyze, you are putting this all instruction in a proper form. And then you are making a paper book or some kind of the index for that. Then you are putting, ascertaining the purpose, that why you are creating the document. This document, this is not only PL, but everything together. But these steps are very much important. It will be helpful to you throughout your career whenever you draft anything. Then you will research up-to-date law, that when your client has given instruction, suppose PL, everything is ready. But then suppose your client is coming that he is facing a traffic jam issue in suppose Delhi. So now he want to go to the court that, sir, court should take a cognizance because there is a great traffic jam, morning hours, evening hours. And then when there is an ambulance or some emergency vehicle want to travel, they are unable to do so. And then the life of the lot of citizens are at threat. Now, suppose client want you to file a PL before the Delhi High Court for this matter. Now here what you do, that apart from his contention, you are also collecting the data or detail, that have any other petition has been filed before the court, whether court has passed any order earlier which is not implemented by the government. Everything you have to do your own research. And finally, you are also finding the option that whether PL is only option available, or should I move to the other authority? Should I go for any other writ petition? Everything you are putting into mind. And then, because let me tell you, when you file any petition before the court, it's not the case that it's not like a civil court. Let me tell you that the petition which we are learning today is matter of the High Court and Supreme Court. These proceedings are quite different than the lower court proceedings. In lower court proceedings, if I want to file a case, I will go to the registry, I will file my case, and court will issue the notice 100% to the opposite party. There is no admission stage available. But when you move to the High Court and Supreme Court, then you see that there is an admissible board also. So it's when you are filing your petition, court is also asking you that first you remain present and explain us why we should entertain your petition. Should we accept your petition or not? And most of the time it happens that when court don't find merit in your petition, they will simply reject it. Sorry, we cannot issue the notice to the other party. And that is why you have to exhaust this all option. When you prepare all the thing together, it is helping you to appear in a proper way before the court also. So that's what important aspect. So this was the planning stage which we have discussed. Should I go to this question later on? I'm finding some chat box. Should I entertain the question later on? I will complete my discussion first. Right?
Yes, sir.
Do that? Okay, fine. Let us do the second stage, writing stage. Then whatever detail you have collected, you can get to know, you can put it into the proper format later on. And then and you are putting a skeleton draft. Then you are going to revise the draft. And finally, the final stage is coming, revision stage, in which you reanalyze. So these are the very important stages which you are going to prepare it. Finally, what are the rules of drafting? Keep this in mind. Every pleading must state the facts and not the law. This is a very interesting observation. Always when you draft anything, you should not plead the law. Only facts should be mentioned, because we presume that courts are very much knowledgeable. They know what laws is applicable. So mostly you can quote the section, but you are not going to reproduce the entire section that, okay, suppose according to Article 21, these are the fundamental right. Complete reproduction is not required. So law is not required to be pleaded. Only facts are required to be pleaded. Number two, material facts and material facts are required to be mentioned. So all material facts are required, because your client might be residing somewhere, he might be doing some job. These are the facts, but these all facts are not required to be put here. So take a note of this, that when you draft anything, try to differentiate between the facts and material facts. So facts can be anything. I am right now speaking, it's a fact. But when you file a petition, it may not be material fact to you. So stick to the material fact and must state only the facts on which the party is pleading reliance and not the evidence by which they are going to be proved. Very important, even evidence are not required to be proved. Say, for example, I am filing a petition before the High Court of Delhi that there is a great traffic. Now here I don't have to put the evidence. Let's see, according to the para number 2, I have written that I am attaching the photographs of peak hours, and the photographs itself prove that there is a great traffic problem. This evidence are not required to be pleaded in the petition. They are supposed to be produced before the court as and when court asks. So this is the rule, that evidence should not be pleaded. And finally, it must be such facts concisely but with precision and certainty. So consciously, precision and certainty, you have to put it. So these are again rules of the drafting. These are the practical tip you can use: ordinary sense of word and consistent terminology. So don't go for the like Shashi Tharoor English. With due respect, we say that it is not the case that when you are drafting a petition, you should use the extraordinary languages. It's not the case. Simple language is also very much effective and important also. And then consistent terminology means that suppose you identify some person with XYZ name, then that identity should be considered constantly. Like suppose you at one stage you say respondent number 1, and on another stage you put different word for them, and at the prayer close you read the different word, then it can create ambiguity. So consistent terminology should be used. That's an important aspect. This is the last and very important point which I would like to tell you, that lawyers drafting skill is a non-intervening skill. What do I mean by non-intervening skill? Generally, this is very good ethical issue also, and I see a lot of students who are going to make their career. Ethical norms are greatly connected here. I'll tell you, when client is coming to you and then you are a lawyer, so you might have fought so many cases, so you know everything. Like suppose there is a case of the harassment, after the for the dowry. Now I have fought 100 matters of dowry, so I know what happens. Now when my client is coming, then I am supposed to get the instruction from client from his fact only. Now he will say, okay, sir, now you prepare the petition. Now in this case, I have to mention only the material fact which is disclosed by the client only. It should not happen that I put something mari masala from my side, means, okay, this also required to be added, this also required to be added. Why it will be impactful? Let me tell you, it will make a very good draft. You are a lawyer, your client is telling you and you are adding your own content, it will make a very good draft. But later on, when client will be called by the court, and court will simply ask your client that, okay, do you know about this fact? And client may not be aware that what is added by the advocate. And then ultimately you will lose the matter. Because generally it happens. I don't know whether you have practically visited the court when evidences are taken or not. When you are writing, client is signing actually. Whatever petition is prepared by the advocate, sign is made by the client. So technically client has written everything and an advocate is only helped to file the matter. So when matter is heard in a court, the opposite defense lawyer will come and say, okay, you have written here, do you know this? Client will say, no, I have not written this. Matter is over. Immediately the court will take a cognizance. And that's why client submissions are required to be drafted in a legal language. And that's why you should not add anything of your own. Only whatever you want to present, that should be part of the argument. That is required to be kept in mind. So doesn't matter you draft PIL or simple suit, keep this point in your mind also. Now directly jumping to this point, I have a lot of important instruction or important legal point I have made here. I will quickly bring your attention. Then I presume that all of you have studied fundamental rights. All of you have studied the Constitution of India provision. With this precondition, I have put it here. So you know that public interest litigation can be filed before Supreme Court and High Court of the state. We have 25 High Courts. And you are moving to Supreme Court under Article 32, right to constitutional remedy. But please keep in mind, move to the Supreme Court only when the fundamental right is involved. Because right to move to the Supreme Court under Article 32 is coming only when the fundamental right is in question. But can you go to the other court also? Yes. When you go to High Court, then you can go for fundamental right and other legal rights also. So that's why you see that power of the High Court is wider than the Supreme Court of India. That is very common thing. I'm sure you might have studied that High Court can entertain any petition for fundamental right violation as well as other right violation also. And Supreme Court has restrictions that they can entertain the matter under PIL only for the fundamental right violation. So unless and until you are able to club it with the fundamental right, don't move to the Supreme Court. High Court can be entertaining the matter. So this is a very clear point. I'm sure you are getting the clear understanding of that. Now, before you draft any petition, my practical tip, learn fundamental rights by heart, how fundamental rights are enforced and how it is important. May I pause for the moment and know everyone has studied fundamental right properly? Just let me know by unmuting, or you're just typing yes or no in chat box, please. I presume that all of you know very well about all fundamental rights which are available. That's why I will bring your attention to the practical petition which I have filed. Yes, very good. Very nice. Great. 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 Okay. I'm getting the answer from a lot of you. Very nice. Those who have not studied, I have put that here in the presentation itself, or I will send you separately. Why this point is important? Because the classification of fundamental right you are linking. So definition, article 12 and 13. And fundamental rights categories available article 14 to 35. So this is the classification we have seen. Now article 12 is very much important because you know that the writ petitions are not filed before the private individuals. When you draft a PIL, your petition will file against the state, because the fundamental right guaranteed by the Indian Constitution are against the state government, not for private individual. And that's why never file a petition before the private individual. Okay, because article, then question is, what should I do when I want to get enforcement against the private individual? Go for proper channel, because when there is a private party involved in a dispute, then we already have laws, we already have legal provisions how you can file a complaint and you can get justice against the private parties. So private parties are not getting scope again in the particular petition. So learn state very properly. So according to Article 12, 4 categories are available: Parliament and Government of India, state. So direct petition can be filed. They can be joined as a respondent. Number 2, state legislature, all state government can be state. Number 3, all local authorities, you can add them as a state. And finally, other authorities also. This is very interesting. So you must be knowing that other authorities, there is a test given by the different judgment that whether the authority has been instituted by the special law, or whether it is government funded, government intervention is involved or not. And based on this, universities are private, universities are state, State Bank of India, the company like Air India, or any other body who has the intervention of the state is also put into the definition or category of the state. In that way, you have to study. So when you are filing PIL, who will be respondent, that is required to be kept in mind first, because the first principle is that you should be knowing against whom you are asking your remedy. If you don't know against whom your remedy is asked, then your matter will not be entered in by the state, because court will say, yes, you have claimed very fantastically fundamental right, how it is getting violated. But we should pass order against whom, that is not clarity. And then we cannot enter in the petition. So courts are very strict. Then that's why state article should be very properly studied. This is the practical tip you can write down when you are planning to draft the petition. Then Article 13, law, why this definition has been included? Because generally when you think that any law has been created, or there is also already enacted law which is creating a hurdle in violation, or which is not for protection of your fundamental rights or legal rights, then you can challenge. So Article 13, law means ordinance, rules, regulation, bylaw, notification, custom, usage, everything is included. And these are the two important aspects, that pre-constitutional laws and post-constitutional laws. So there will not be any question about the pre-constitutional laws, but post-constitutional laws are always challenged. And that's why the state shall not make any law which takes away or abridges any right which is guaranteed by the Part 3 of the Indian Constitution. So generally, like reservation, you know that in Gujarat in 2015, the opposition made, there was a first time curfew also inflicted, that general reservation was sought. And then what government of Gujarat did, they came out with the 1,000 crore package, and the special reservation was given for the upper class also. Immediately the matter went to High Court, High Court struck it down, and matter went to Supreme Court, Supreme Court also struck down that sorry, you cannot make any law for giving reservation to the upper class. But then question is, why the new reservation is there? That is constitutional amendment. And we discussed yesterday that constitutional amendment is not law. And that's why it is not required to pass the test of Article 13(2). But according to Keshwan and Bharati's judgment, if the constitutional amendment you want to challenge, you want to challenge on the basis of the basic structure doctrine. So you can go before the court by claiming that it is violating the basic structure of Indian Constitution. Again, it's a very interesting judgment. I will advise you, those students who have not yet read the Keshwan and Bharati judgment, read it. The majority minority 7/6 majority judgment, in which all 7 judges have given the different meaning of the basic structure. For someone federalism, for someone constitutional supremacy, for someone secularism. This is very unique basic structure doctrine. So basic structure doctrine you also study in case you want to challenge any law. which is by virtue of the constitutional amendment also. Best example, NJAC. You must be knowing that National Judicial Appointment Commission, NJAC, which took place, that collegium system should be repealed. Then you know what happened, that even the judicial collegium, the moment NJAC came, it was also challenged and Supreme Court stuck it down. That sorry, this is not permissible because collegium system cannot be appealed. So these are the historical event which has happened in our country. And then writ petitions are also very much important here. So for your kind information, this thing has been explained. So before you go for the writ petition drafting, this all fundamental rights are included, right to equality, Article 14 to 18, you see. And in case you want to challenge any legal action or any inaction which is violating fundamental right of equality, you can move to the court. Right to freedom, very detailed provisions are available. Right against exploitation, right to religion, cultural, educational right to constitutional remedies, everything. So as I asked you that you have studied fundamental right, I am not bringing your attention to that, but I will bring your attention to writ petitions only. That Article 32, you must be knowing that when you file a writ petition in form of PL is also writ petition. And writ petition, there are 5 kind of writs available. I'm sure every one of you have gone through this all writ petitions. Can you please write down quickly? Yes, no, mandamus, certiorari, prohibition, habeas corpus, quo warranto. Which writ petition will be primarily coming when you talk about PIL? Can you please tell me? Write down please in chat box. When you talk about the PIL, which writ petition will primarily come into picture? Whether habeas corpus will come into picture in PIL? Habeas corpus? No, yes. Habeas corpus will come when there is a case of the private private party's illegal detention. So generally, mandamus is considered to be the very popular way. Why? Because mandamus is a very broad origin. Mandamus is filed when the government or even court had to do something, but it is not done. So action or inaction, both is covered under the mandamus. But prohibition, certiorari has a limited action. Prohibition and certiorari are lying against the judicial, quasi-judicial authority. Okay. So mandamus can lie against judicial as well as non-judicial authority. On all kind of government department can be under the mandamus, but prohibition and certiorari has limited application. And quo warranto is coming again when there is a case when the person is holding the public office, but he is not entitled. So for your kind information, I have also added that here, that in what situation mandamus will lie, in what situation certiorari will lie, how you can write down against whom mandamus will lie. A quick revision also put here. So those students who have not studied about writ petition or they have still doubt can get it clarity. So this presentation include everything. Writ of prohibition, you are willing that inferior court or any kind of proceedings should forbid, that there is a trial going on, there is action going on, and because of that your fundamental right or legal right may be violated. So you can go to the higher court for writ of prohibition, so that body should stay in the limitation. Certiorari generally for quashing. So when order is passed, which is also resulting into violation of your right, for quashing, you are going for the certiorari. And quo warranto, by what authority you are appearing before the court. Now coming to the important aspect, the format of the petition. What are the part of the petition? So starting with the title, before the High Court or before the Supreme Court of India, you are writing a title. Then what district? This district is very much important for a purpose that generally High Court has entire state jurisdiction and all the districts. So generally when you move to the High Court and you write down the district, so immediately the department of the High Court or registry will send the summons to that district court, and then through that the local authority can come into picture. So district is very important when you are writing that under which jurisdiction of which district court the summons can be served. So this is a very procedural aspect. So you see that before Gujarat High Court district so and so, you are writing that. The number of petition. What is petition? Some people give the number extraordinary civil jurisdiction. Someone or some courts give PIL separate number. And in the matter of, it's a kind of the reference that whether you are talking about articles of Indian Constitution, what are the relevant laws you want to challenge apart from the Constitution of India. Sometimes there can be ordinance, there can be rules, sometimes there can be notification, everything you are writing. Then sometimes decision also, suppose you are willing to challenge the decision of any lower court, then that decision also you are referring by virtue of this particular petition. Then details of the petitioner and details of the respondent. I would like to ask you one question. You have studied about misjoinder, non-joinder of the parties, right? One question may be asked to you. What is the difference between the normal writ petition and the civil suit? Let me tell you. Writ petitions are not governed by the CPC directly. Take a note of this. When you talk about the PL or when you talk about the writ petition, the Code of Civil Procedure has given very proper formal way for civil suit. So civil suit are strictly following the name of the petitioner, name of the respondent, joinder, misjoinder, non-joinder, and the suit can be rejected on the ground of this also. But in writ petition, generally these rules are strictly not applied, and that's why relaxation is given. So court will not completely throw away your petition, but will give the time that here the petition's name are not getting clarity. So you are always getting opportunity in case you are not there. So in that case, you please take a note that strict rules of the pleadings according to CPC is not directly applicable to the writ petition. And that's why innovative format is available in almost all petition. So this is the important provisions, and I will show you one by one how it is actually drafted. So before the High Court Chief Justice, that's the address. Then petitioner's submission you are writing, what you are challenging in petition, that is required to be written in para number 1 generally. Facts, what are the facts? You are writing in some small paragraphs. When you see that there is a violation of the fundamental right of any citizen, then please make a statement in a proper para that how and what fundamental right you are claiming to be violated. In a sub para you can mention. Then generally third para is writing about the grounds of submission, legal ground. What are the legal grounds? Why you need to challenge it? Then prima facie case, balance of convenience and irreparable loss. These are the standard para which you are writing, that why petitioners are claiming to have prima facie case, and what if the order is not passed, what loss petitioners are going to face. Very interesting para is this, that generally when you have alternative remedy, court don't entertain your petition. You know, then suppose there is a pollution matter and you can go with your pollution control board and still you are going to the court will say come through proper channel. And that's why you explain that there is no other alternative effective remedy. And here there is a case in which we want intervention of the court. So dedicated para is written for that. Then if any other legal proceedings are taken earlier by the petitioner on the same subject matter, I don't say this petition will be taken, thrown away, but you should mention it, that what action have been taken and what is the result of that action. Then is there any delay in a petition? In case yes, then you are supposed to write down that why there is a delay. That's a very formal declaration. Then territorial jurisdiction, there is a statement you are writing that what is the jurisdiction issue about this particular petition. Then period clause, affidavit and document. So these are the standard format of the petition, which you can see in the draft also. Now there is an assignment, and I will tell you, if you are asked to draft a public interest litigation on any particular issue which you are facing and there is no any alternative remedy, how you will draft a petition. So you can draft it. I will tell you, and I will tell you personally that all of you please draft a petition. But I would like to show one very interesting petition which is prepared by one of my students, and it's very interesting. So I will show you that one actually drafted petition. It's very small, so you will enjoy a lot. Just 1 minute. Can you see my screen now?
No, sir.
Can you see my screen now? No.
No, sir.
Just 1 minute. Okay. Now is it visible to you?
Yes, sir. Now it's visible.
I have shared one very interesting petition which is prepared by one of the student, and then I will tell you that this petition is filed before Gujarat High Court, and in Gujarat High Court they treat extraordinary civil jurisdiction. So obviously writ petitions are taken for the civil matter. So extraordinary civil jurisdiction they are taking. Now you see reference. There is petition is for directing respondent authorities to remove the nuisance of the cattle from the streets of Ahmedabad and to make appropriate arrangement for the same. You must be knowing that when you drive cars on a road, generally during the monsoon, the cattle would sit in between the roads, and then it will be a traffic jam, it will be accident, and lot of even on highways, the situation become very vast. So this petition is filed before the court. Now see how properly the rights have been claimed. It's a small discussion, but it will give a lot. So petition number is not given because this number is generally given after the petition is filed. Now see, this petition is in the matter of Article 21 and Article 226 of the Indian Constitution. Why 21 has been triggered? Wait, I will not give answer. You can find it later on. That what is the important point on which Article 221 has been claimed. So Mr. XYZ, it is a petition, details of the petitioner, what is the age, occupation, residing at so-and-so address, and versus, you see the respondent. I told you the strict rules of respondents are not getting, but generally state government is considered to be the party, and that's what fundamental rights are getting protected. So you'll find out the state government, state of Gujarat. Now this is very important. Whenever you draft petition, notice should be served to whom that is required to be mentioned. So state of Gujarat means whether notice will be served to CM directly or chief secretary or any other officer. So generally there is a proper way that whenever state of Gujarat is involved, the legal department get represented and the notice is served to the chief secretary. So you're writing the office address also. Then Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation, because they will have the rec role. So notice is served to the Municipal Commissioner of Ahmedabad, and Police Commissioner. Commissioner of the Police is also added here as a party. Now you'll be surprised at what Police Commissioner will do. See the pleadings and averment, you will get to know. So this is very formal. Honorable Chief Justice and other High Court, other judges of the High Court of Gujarat, the humble petition. Now we see one by one paras. Whatever discussion we had. Now suppose I am your client and I come to see I am driving my car on highway every day. I have to go to the different part of the city. I found so many cattle sitting. The cattle are owned by the nearby, the shepherds and the people who are keeping the cattle with them, but they don't want to feed them. That's why they simply throw or let the cattle go anywhere. And in the evening, they start collecting the cattle and they are getting it home. Because of that, cattle create a lot of trouble. This is the facts which I have put in front of you. Now, you will apply all the rules which we discussed. That first of all, you write down the facts into chronological way. Then you will find out that whether any other action have been taken or not. Who is a competent authority before whom the action can be taken. And after getting all the things detailed, you can draft the petition in this format. So let's see one by one para what is mentioned. The present petition under Article 226 of the Constitution is filed by the petitioner in public interest. Petitioner is resident of Ahmedabad and has no personal interest in the said litigation. And the present petition is not guided by self-gain or any other person, institution, body. And there is no oblique motive other than that of the public interest in filing this petition. So according to rules, you also keep adding this particular para also. So first para is written like this. Second para, that the petitioner is a junior lawyer practicing in Gujarat High Court in the last 3 years and has been resident of Ahmedabad for last 24 years. The petitioner has noticed that there is a serious problem of the stray cows and cattle that are left on the freely roam the street of Ahmedabad city, and that this is causing issue of the traffic, health and safety of the people, overall hygiene, and not to mention negatively impact the health of the cattle as well. So you might have seen, I am sure this problem is available in almost all the cities where the cattle move freely and then they will get injured, they will also get affected, and at the end of the day when they eat some garbage, then the quality of the milk and other products are also getting impacted. So this is the contention which has been mentioned. 3. The petitioner respectfully says and submits that the present petition is filed by the petitioner purely in public interest. The cost of the litigation, including the court fees and other expenditure, are borne by the petitioner himself. As being a lawyer practicing in the Gujarat High Court of Ahmedabad district, it is hereby declared that the petitioner has not faced any proceedings in respect of the Contempt of Court Act, and the present petition is covered under the item 3 of Rule 5 of the Public Interest Litigation Rule 2020. I show you the rules, and this para is also taken from the rules. So this is the way by which advocates also mention, and according to rules now, there are rules available. You can see this. These are just 1 minute. So okay, I think I have shared this screen. So these rules are not available. I will show those rules as well. Number 4, the brief facts. Now coming to the factual para, you see the facts, how it is connected with the violation of your rights. The petitioner respectfully submit that the government of Gujarat has, via Directorate of the Animal Husbandry, issued various acts, rules for the protection of the animal in state. A few examples can be Bombay Animal Preservation of Act of 1954, Livestock Breeding Policy Notification, and so on. While these are extremely useful and relevant laws, the problem of stray cattle roaming around the street of Ahmedabad remaining unaddressed. Number 2, the petitioner states and submit that the extent of this issue cannot be underestimated. Since the last few years, citizens of Ahmedabad have been complaining about the cattle roaming around the freely in the city. Even officials in the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation and the police have acknowledged that a serious problem exists, but nothing has been done in order to eradicate the solve or issue. The issue has been brought before this High Court, Honorable High Court, in the year 2017 and 18, but no conclusive action has been taken to end this menace. The petitioner states and submit that due to the presence of cattle on the street of the city, an entire era of public problems cope up. Apart from the obvious disruption in the traffic, other problems including health and safety of the people, whether they may be driving or they may be pedestrians, basic hygiene and sanitation of the street is also a problem, since no one takes responsibility to clean and clear the waste left by these animals on the street. The petitioner states and submit that the owners of some of these cattle also take advantage of the fact that they are allowed to leave their cattle to roam around on the streets freely. By doing this, they absolve themselves from any responsibility of the feeding cattle or taking care of the cattle. Not only do they take no responsibility of the welfare of their animal, but they go one step further by fighting with the citizens who object to this cattle roaming on the street, due to which citizens are afraid to object and authorities also turn a blind eye. Cattle which are freely roaming on the streets should be moved by the state government to gaushalas outside the city, and should also not be left to roam the streets eating plastic and other wastes. This problem is not a recent one, and even after direction of the Honorable High Court in the year 17 and 18, both the police and Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation authorities have failed to bring an end to this problem. In May 18, the AMC has promised the High Court to move all stray cattle from the road to gaushalas and animal pounds, but absolutely no concrete step has been taken to implement or carry out this promise. This is the para which mention whether any earlier petition has been filed or not. And then it is also possible that when earlier petition have been filed and action have been taken by the court, still it has not been implemented by the administrative authority. So again, it is becoming a ground to file a petition. So see, very beautifully, you can write down the para, and this is the art which you will keep learning by writing the petition. A petitioner states and submit that even as recently in 19, the AMC and the police have promised strict action to curb the cattle problem by identifying areas in which problem exists, and then to sensitize the. It has a copy of an article discussing this very topic and the respondents' proposed plan with the AMC Commissioner Vijay Nehra in May 19, published in Times of India newspaper, has been annexed thereto as my annexure A. As you know, the news quite, you are also putting by virtue of annexure, so courts can also take a cognizance of that and necessary order can be passed. The petitioner states and submit that the petitioner has also written to the Commissioner of AMC and the police to solve this problem and to implement all the programs and plan that they have devised in order to curb this problem by latest dated so and so, but has received no reply or clarification till date. Even though the question involved in the matter is very important and has serious implication to both public health and safety, copies of the above mentioned letter has been annexed here too. So this also shows that it is quite possible that you might have taken some steps by approaching the administrative authority and you might have received the replies also. Right now we have RTI. So sometimes PILs also is filed based on the right to information that you collected data. Like suppose in the same case, I can write to municipal corporation and collect the data, that how many animals have been taken by you, how many people have been penalized, how many owners were given notices. All data I can collect and then I can move to the court. Then in spite of this, menace is still continued. Then petitioner states and submit that the petitioner has therefore challenged the inaction of the part of the state government, Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation and police in not implementing the plan that have been proposed earlier to eradicate the cattle problem from the state of Ahmedabad. So actually what you are challenging, there also you are mentioning, you are challenging the inaction. Sometimes there cannot be complete action. So you want to propose that this should be done. Like what happening in the targeted lynching case. There is absence of rules. So you are telling government to make a rule for lynching and special punishment of the people who can come out or who are held liable for the lynching. The petitioner respectfully submit that the present petition is filed by the petitioner purely in public interest and not for any kind of the personal interest and for any other body or institution. Now see the grounds. What are the grounds? That is important when court is asking why you are appearing before the court. The petitioner states and submit that the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation has repeatedly promised the citizen of the Ahmedabad that concrete steps are being taken to control and then to eradicate the problem of the cows from the street of Ahmedabad. But no such thing has yet. It shows that respondent number 2 has no intention of acting on the said promises which would go against the order passed by the court in 17 and 18. Petitioner states and submit that the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation has, in August 19, proposed a novel idea to get volunteers to catch stray cattle, and then these volunteers would be paid accordingly. This scheme, though innovative, has not been successful because of the very few people knowing about it and for participating. It shows that AMC is not serious in its pursuit to solve this issue because the scheme has neither been properly published, it has been implemented. So in case the scheme is there, you are not published. Number C, and that this inaction is despite the High Court of Gujarat reprimanding them in the year 1718 for the same. It is respectfully submitted that although the more than 3 years have passed since the problem came up before this Honorable High Court of Gujarat, respondents have not taken no steps to identify the owners of the cattle, shift their cattle back to them, and to identify the stray cattle and to move them to specified gaushalas located outside the limits of the Ahmedabad city. The petitioners submit that the problem being faced by the citizen of the Ahmedabad due to stray cattle are not only limited to the traffic issues, but also involved in more serious issues as hygiene, sanitation, and health of each citizen, not to mention overall health and well-being of the cattle are also affected. The same issue has been lingering since the past few years and will eventually lead to the moment of crisis when the problem cannot be ignored anymore. Therefore, it is imperative on the part of the respondents to plan how to remove these cattle from the streets, how to relocate them, and then to take adequate care of this animal through a proper established mechanism. The petitioner submit that he has not filed any other proceedings, appeal application before any court or law or authorities, including Honorable Supreme Court of India, seeking directions to respondent to remove the stray cattle from the street of Ahmedabad and adequately relocate them. 9. The petitioner has no other alternative effective remedy except to approach this Honorable Court by this present petition under Article 226 of the Constitution of India, and the petitioners claim leave to add, amend, or retain any of the paras or para as and when required. So you see that already we have mentioned earlier that lot of action, lot of activities were proposed. Even reprimand was also there, but department is not working. And this is the direct case about filing a PIL before the court so that the direction of the court can be taken seriously. Very interesting portion of the petition, the prayer clause. So you have written everything, but court will ask, okay, what you want from us? Now see what are the prayer clause. Number 1, your application may be pleased to allow the petition, PIL. This is the step I told you. And in High Court, first of all, you have to appear for the hearing that why your petition should be entertained. So that is the first para. You should allow this petition. Number 2, your lordship may be pleased to issue a writ of mandamus. I told you that when there is an inaction of the government or when there is an overaction of the government, both in order to tell government to work or to curtail, mandamus would be appropriate remedy. I will give you the thumb rule that whenever you are putting government as a respondent, put mandamus without any problem, because the mandamus would always lie against government. But when there is a case of the judicial, quasi-judicial authority, then certiorari and prohibition would be suitable writ, which will go accordingly, right? So mandamus or any other appropriate writ, order, direction, directing the respondent authorities to implement a plan to identify areas of Ahmedabad where this problem exists and to them sanitize these areas by relocating the cattle from the streets of Gaushala outside the city. So you want action, what actually government should do? So suppose here court say, yes, your petition is accepted. The government is ordered to do as per prayer clause B. So here directly this clause will be operative. That is also possible. Number C, your lordship may be pleased to issue a writ of mandamus or any other appropriate writ, order, direction directing the respondent authority to help the cattle nuisance control department by accompanying them during the cattle pickup drives, so that these drives are efficient, effective, and do not face interference from any parties. So you are also telling that department should start working. Your lordship may be pleased to direct the respondent authorities to report back to this honorable court with the results of their efforts, whether that may be number of cattle relocated or even number of gaushalas established every 4 weeks till the problem has been sufficiently resolved. This would help ensure that the work is done effectively and efficiently under the watchful eyes of this honorable court. So this is the innovative way that you want reporting also, so that court will also take a call of that and any other remedy. Why this clause is written, you please keep in mind that either you draft a plaint or you draft any writ petition, this clause is always mandatory. Why? Suppose court say that you have claimed everything, but we don't agree that this kind of relief cannot be granted. What if court want to grant something which is not according to your prayer? Then this is giving the scope to the court that any other relief which you can be finding proper can be also granted. And then there is a conclusion with the proper date and signature, and then you are also writing affidavit. So in affidavit, you are averring that whatever is stated by you on oath is absolutely correct and truth. So this is how PIL are understood. It can be drafted, and I will show you one more interesting thing. There is a drafting of the rules. So I told you that there are PIL rules available of the different high courts. Yeah. You can see this. These are the rules, PIL rules by Delhi High Court. So Delhi High Court notification, they have also come out with the PIL which are filed in front of them. So they have come out with the petition also. And what will be the petition? Here also, you will find out the similar kind of guidelines. So this is taken from the Supreme Court guideline only, that what petition shall be accepted, what petition shall not. Similarly, there is also one more PIL guidelines from the Orissa High Court. And they have given the format of the PIL also. So these are the PIL rules which are 2010, and similar kind of things available. You can see the format available. So how the PIL should be drafted, this is available. Writ petition, what should be the matter, and this structure is already available. You should write down this kind of para, and then you can write down. Both these rules I will share with you, and they are available online also. So finally, conclusion discussion is that if you go before the Supreme Court, you follow the rules. If you go before the High Court, check the High Court rules, how petitions are supposed to be filed, what are the other formalities to be followed. Obviously, you need to pay some stamp duty on that also, like a normal amount, like Gujarat High Court charges 50 rupees as a stamp, and accordingly the order should be there. So these are the practical aspect of drafting PIL. Although it is not limited to PIL, I have covered the remaining part of the drafting also. So more and more you will study about the drafting, more and more practice you need to do. So I have also given some practical tip to you that if you are working with some advocates, tell them that I want to draft something, and best option, obviously sitting on laptop is fine. But when you write down by your hands, making your own notes and writing para by para, it will always develop your skill. And today also I'm learning how to draft, because it is a never ending skill. More and more you write, more and more you draft, always it is giving a very wonderful scope. And that's what the beauty of the subject law itself.